Welcome to Midnight Grove, where every story is a journey into wonder and discovery. Tonight we share the song of the hidden stream, a tale of resilience, selflessness, and the quiet magic that connects us all. Follow young Emry as he listens to a melody that leads him to a secret long forgotten, uncovering the power of balance and renewal. Relax, let the story carry you, and drift into a world of peace and hope. Chapter 1: A Village of Dust. The village of Drybell had once been a place of abundance, nestled in a fertile valley, surrounded by rolling hills and ancient woods. Generations of farmers and tradespeople had thrived there, their lives woven together by the rhythm of planting and harvest, the gurgle of streams and the laughter of children playing in the fields. But all of that had changed. A relentless drought had turned the once lush valley into a cracked and barren wasteland. The streams that had fed the village dried up one by one, leaving behind empty riverbeds. The wells, once overflowing with cool, clear water, were now little more than dusty holes in the ground. The crops failed first, withering under the unyielding sun. Then the livestock began to die, their weak cries haunting the still air. The villagers, who had always worked together in harmony, now spent their days arguing over dwindling resources and blaming one another for their misfortunes. At the heart of the village was a boy named Emry. Emry's quiet longing. At 13, Emry was small for his age, with wiry limbs and a mop of unruly brown hair that seemed to have a life of its own. His bright green eyes, once full of curiosity and mischief, now carried the shadow of worry that had settled over the entire village. Emry's father, a carpenter, had done his best to keep their family afloat during the drought, taking odd jobs and mending tools for the villagers. But there was only so much he could do. "We'll make it through this," his father often said, his voice steady but strained. "We just have to keep working hard." Emry wanted to believe him, but it was hard to hold on to hope when every day felt harder than the last. His one escape was the forest. While most of the villagers avoided the woods, which had grown eerily quiet during the drought, Emry often wandered among the trees, seeking refuge from the dust and despair. The forest felt like a different world, its ancient trunks and twisting roots carrying whispers of something older and deeper than the hardships of the village. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emry ventured farther into the woods than he ever had before. The air was cooler under the canopy, and the golden light of sunset filtered through the leaves, casting long shadows on the forest floor. He walked for hours, letting his feet carry him where they would until he reached a small clearing surrounded by towering oaks. There, for the first time, he heard it. A melody, the mysterious song. The sound was faint at first, like the hum of a distant breeze or the rustle of leaves. But as Emry stood still, straining to hear, the melody grew clearer, a haunting, lilting tune that seemed to wrap around him like a warm embrace. He turned in a slow circle, searching for the source of the sound, but the clearing was empty. The song seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "Hello?" Emry called, his voice trembling slightly. The song didn't answer, but it didn't fade either. It pulsed gently through the air, rising and falling like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Unable to resist, Emry followed the sound, weaving through the trees as the melody guided him deeper into the forest. The light faded as he walked, the golden hues of sunset giving way to the cool blues of twilight. The song grew louder, more intricate, as if it were weaving a story with every note. Emry's heart raced, a mixture of excitement and unease filling his chest. Finally, he reached a narrow path that sloped downward, its edges lined with smooth stones. The air grew cooler still, carrying a faint metallic scent that reminded Emry of water, the hidden stream. At the bottom of the slope, Emry found himself standing before a small shimmering stream. Its waters glowed faintly in the twilight, their surface rippling with an otherworldly light. The stream wound its way through the forest, its edges lined with smooth pebbles that sparkled like silver. The song was louder here, filling the air with its strange, beautiful melody. It seemed to rise from the stream itself, as though the water were alive and singing. Emry knelt by the stream, his hands trembling as he reached out to touch the water. It was cool and clear, its surface smooth as glass. As his fingers brushed the water, the melody shifted, growing brighter and more urgent. The light of the stream pulsed gently, and Emry gasped as a voice filled the air. "You have found me." Emry stumbled back, his heart pounding. "Who's there?" he whispered. The stream shimmered, its glow intensifying. "I am the spirit of this stream," the voice said. It was soft and melodic, blending seamlessly with the song. "And I have been waiting for someone to hear my call." Emry stared, his mind racing. You're alive?" The stream's light rippled like laughter. "In a way," it said, "I am one of many spirits that dwell in the waters of this land. But I have been hidden for a long time, forgotten by those who once cared for me." Emry swallowed hard. "Why were you hidden?" The stream's glow dimmed slightly, and its voice grew somber. "The people of your village forgot the balance that sustains us. They took from the land without giving back, and the waters grew weary. The drought is a result of that imbalance." Emry's chest tightened. "But it's not just us. The animals and plants are dying too. Can't you help us?" The stream was silent for a long moment. "I can," it said finally. "But only if your people are willing to change. The balance must be restored." A promise to keep. Emry felt a flicker of hope, the first he had felt in months. "What do we have to do?" The stream's light pulsed softly. "Bring the villagers here," it said. "Show them the truth of what they have forgotten. If they can learn to care for the waters again, I will flow freely once more." Emry hesitated. He thought of the villagers, their faces lined with exhaustion and worry. Would they even listen to him? "I'll try," he said finally. "But what if they don't believe me?" The stream's melody softened, its glow wrapping around Emry like a gentle hug. "Trust in the song," it said. "It will guide you." Emry nodded, his resolve hardening. He turned back toward the forest path, the stream's melody lingering in his ears. As he made his way back to the village, a single thought echoed in his mind. This could change everything. Chapter 2. The Weight of Water. The walk back to the village was longer than Emry remembered, the forest path winding through shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly in the moonlight. The stream's melody lingered in his ears, faint and haunting, as if urging him forward. By the time he reached the edge of the forest, the village was quiet, its streets empty and dark. Most of the lanterns that once lit the cobblestone paths had been extinguished, a small but telling sign of how deeply the drought had affected their lives. Emry slipped through the narrow alleys, careful not to wake anyone as he made his way home. But sleep didn't come easily that night. He lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling and replaying the stream's words in his mind. The balance must be restored. When dawn broke, Emry rose before the sun, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He knew he had to tell the villagers about the stream, but the thought of standing before them, trying to convince them to believe something so extraordinary, made his stomach churn. Still, the memory of the stream's glow and the urgency of its song gave him the strength to push his fears aside. He couldn't let the drought continue, not when there was a chance to change everything. A village divided. By mid-morning, the village square was bustling with activity. People moved about with tired determination, hauling buckets of water from the shallow wells and tending to their meager gardens. Emry hesitated at the edge of the square, his heart pounding as he watched the familiar faces of his neighbors. His father was there too, speaking with the blacksmith near the old fountain that had long since run dry. Taking a deep breath, Emry stepped forward. "Everyone," he called, his voice cracking slightly. The villagers turned to look at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and impatience. "What is it, Emry?" his father asked, frowning. "I found something," Emry said, his voice trembling. "Something that could help us." The blacksmith crossed his arms, his face skeptical. "What are you talking about, boy?" Emry took another deep breath, forcing himself to stand tall. "There's a stream in the forest. It's hidden, but it's still flowing. And it spoke to me." A murmur rippled through the crowd, the villagers exchanging uncertain glances. "It spoke to you?" one of the farmers said, his tone laced with doubt. "You mean like in a dream?" "No," Emry said quickly. "I heard it. It said the drought happened because we took too much without giving back. It said we need to restore the balance, and then the water will return." The blacksmith snorted. "A talking stream, Emry, we're all tired, but this isn't the time for stories." "It's not a story," Emry protested, his voice rising. "I saw it, the water was glowing, and the stream told me that if we work together, we can bring it back." His father stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Emry," he said softly, his voice heavy with concern. "You've always had a vivid imagination, but this is hard for people to believe." Emry pulled away, frustration bubbling in his chest. "Why won't you listen to me? I'm telling the truth." A test of faith. The villagers' murmurs grew louder, their voices overlapping in a wave of doubt and skepticism. "Even if it's true, how are we supposed to restore balance?" a woman asked, shaking her head. "We're barely surviving as it is," another added. "What more can we give?" Emry clenched his fists, his mind racing. He hadn't thought this far ahead. hadn't considered how difficult it would be to convince the villagers to believe him. But before he could respond, an older woman stepped forward. Her name was Letha, and she was one of the village elders, known for her calm demeanor and wisdom. "Let the boy speak," Letha said, her voice cutting through the noise. The crowd fell silent, their attention shifting back to Emry. "Go on," Letha said gently. "What did the stream tell you to do?" Emry hesitated, his cheeks flushing under the weight of their stares. "It said we need to change," he said finally. "To stop taking so much and start giving back. To care for the land and the water the way we used to." Letha nodded slowly. "And how do you suggest we do that?" Emry hesitated again, struggling to find the right words. We could clean the riverbeds," he said. "Plant trees near the streams to keep the soil from washing away. And maybe we could offer something to the stream, like an apology for what we've done." The villagers exchanged uncertain glances, their expressions a mix of doubt and curiosity. "It sounds like a lot of work," the blacksmith muttered. "It is," Emry admitted, "but it's better than sitting around waiting for things to get worse." Letha smiled faintly, her eyes glinting with approval. "The boy has a point," she said. "Perhaps it's time we tried something new." A flicker of hope. With Letha's support, Emry was able to convince a small group of villagers to join him. His father, though still skeptical, agreed to help, and a handful of others followed suit, their curiosity outweighing their doubt. The group set out for the forest that afternoon, carrying tools and supplies. Emry led the way, his heart pounding as he retraced his steps through the winding paths. When they reached the clearing by the stream, the villagers gasped. The water's faint glow was visible even in the daylight, its surface rippling with a soft, silvery light. "It's beautiful," Letha murmured, her voice filled with wonder. The blacksmith, who had been one of the loudest skeptics, knelt by the stream and dipped his hand into the water. "It's cold," he said, his tone softening. Emry felt a flicker of hope. "Do you believe me now?" he asked. The blacksmith didn't respond, but the look on his face said enough, restoring the balance. Over the next few days, the villagers worked tirelessly to clean the riverbeds, remove debris and replant trees along the edges of the streams. It was backbreaking work, and there were moments when Emry doubted whether it would make a difference. But the stream's melody never wavered, its haunting song filling the air like a promise. On the third day, as the villagers gathered around the stream to rest, Letha suggested they make an offering. "It doesn't have to be much," she said. "Just something meaningful, something that shows we're willing to give as well as take." The villagers agreed, each contributing a small token: a carved wooden figure, a handful of seeds, a woven bracelet. Emry offered the smooth river stone he had carried in his pocket for years, tracing its cool surface one last time before placing it in the stream. As the token settled in the water, the stream's glow brightened, its melody rising to a crescendo that filled the forest. The villagers stared in awe as the water pulsed with light, its ripples spreading outward like a heartbeat. "It's working," Emry whispered, his chest tight with emotion. Chapter 3. the spirit of the waters. The forest was alive with sound, the haunting melody of the stream, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the murmurs of the villagers as they stood on its banks, watching the glowing water ripple with light. Emry couldn't tear his eyes away from the stream. The moment they had placed their offerings into its shimmering waters, something had shifted. The stream's glow had grown brighter, and its melody had risen into the air like a song of gratitude. "It's beautiful," Letha said softly, her voice breaking the silence. The villagers nodded, their faces filled with wonder and awe. Even the blacksmith, who had been one of Emry's loudest doubters, looked humbled as he gazed at the glowing stream. Emry's heart swelled with hope, but a question lingered in his mind. Was it enough? A promise kept. The villagers continued their work over the following days, throwing themselves into the task of restoring the balance with a renewed sense of purpose. They cleared debris from the dried riverbeds, replanted trees along the banks, and began building small dams to slow the flow of water and prevent erosion. Emry worked tirelessly alongside them, his hands blistered and his muscles aching. But he didn't complain. For the first time in months, he felt like they were moving towards something, like the village had a chance to heal. The stream's glow never wavered, and its melody became a constant companion as they toiled. It seemed to watch over them, its light flickering softly whenever their efforts faltered, as if encouraging them to keep going. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emry stood on the stream's banks, staring at his reflection in the glowing water. "You've done well, young one," the stream's voice said, breaking the quiet. Emry looked up, his heart skipping a beat. "Have we restored the balance?" The stream shimmered, its light rippling like laughter. "You have taken the first steps," it said, "but there is still one final task." Emry frowned. "What is it?" The stream's glow dimmed slightly, and its melody grew somber. "The heart of the water is hidden deep within the forest," it said, "a sacred spring that feeds the streams and rivers of this land. To fully restore the balance, you must find the spring and awaken it." Emry's chest tightened. "How do I awaken it?" The stream's voice softened. "The spring spirit is weary, but it will respond to a true act of selflessness, a gift freely given with no thought of reward." Emry swallowed hard, his mind racing. "I'll do it," he said finally. The stream's light brightened, and its melody rose in a gentle crescendo. "Thank you," it said. "You are braver than you know." The search for the spring. Emry told the villagers about the spring the next morning. Though many were hesitant to venture deeper into the forest, Letha's steady presence and Emry's determination convinced them to follow. The journey was long and arduous. The forest grew denser as they moved farther from the village, its ancient trees towering overhead and casting deep shadows on the ground. The air grew cooler, and the whispers of the wind carried a sense of mystery that made the villagers uneasy. Emry led the way, his eyes scanning the path for any sign of the spring. The stream's melody guided him, growing louder and more intricate as they moved closer. Finally, after hours of walking, they emerged into a hidden glade. At the center of the glade was a pool of water, its surface perfectly still and gleaming like a mirror. The trees around the pool were draped in moss, their branches forming a canopy that let in only faint shafts of light. Emry stepped forward, his breath catching in his throat. "Is this it?" The stream's melody rose in response, its notes blending with the gentle hum of the glade. The final test. The villagers gathered around the pool, their voices hushed as they took in the beauty of the hidden spring. Letha knelt by the water's edge, her expression reverent. "This place feels alive," she said softly. Emry nodded, his gaze fixed on the still surface of the pool. "The stream said we need to awaken it," he said, "with a true act of selflessness." The villagers exchanged uncertain glances, their expressions clouded with doubt. "What does that even mean?" the blacksmith asked. "I think it means we need to give something up," Emry said. "Something important." The villagers fell silent, their gazes shifting to the ground. They had already given so much time, effort, and what little they had left. What more could they offer? Emry felt a pang of despair, but then he thought of the stream's words, a gift freely given with no thought of reward. Taking a deep breath, he reached into his satchel and pulled out the last thing his mother had given him. A small wooden whistle carved in the shape of a bird. It was the only keepsake he had of her, and he had carried it with him every day since she passed. Emry's hands trembled as he knelt by the pool, clutching the whistle tightly. "This was my mother's," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's the most important thing I have, but if it can help bring the water back, then it's worth it." He placed the whistle in the water, watching as it sank slowly to the bottom. The spirit awakened. For a moment nothing happened. The villagers held their breath, their eyes fixed on the pool. Then the water began to ripple. The glow of the spring intensified, spreading outward in waves of light that illuminated the entire glade. The melody of the stream rose into the air, joined by a chorus of voices that seemed to come from the forest itself. The villagers gasped as the water overflowed, spilling over the edges of the pool and forming streams that wound their way through the glade. The trees seemed to come alive, their leaves rustling in a gentle breeze that carried the scent of rain. A figure emerged from the pool, a spirit made of water and light, its form shimmering like liquid silver. "Thank you," the spirit said, its voice echoing like a song. "You have restored the balance." Emry stared, his chest tight with emotion. "Will the drought end now?" he asked. The spirit nodded. "The waters will flow once more, but it is up to you to keep the balance. Care for the land and it will care for you." The villagers bowed their heads, their expressions filled with awe and gratitude. A new beginning. The journey back to the village was unlike anything they had experienced before. The streams that had once been dry were now flowing, their waters cool and clear. The air felt fresher, and the faint scent of rain lingered in the breeze. When they reached the village, the change was undeniable. The wells, once empty, were brimming with water, and the fields showed signs of new growth. The villagers worked tirelessly to ensure the balance remained, planting trees, conserving water, and treating the land with care. As for Emry, he found a new sense of purpose, Though he missed his mother's whistle, he felt her presence in every drop of water, every whisper of the stream. The melody of the hidden stream stayed with him, a constant reminder of the power of selflessness and the importance of caring for the world around them. Thank you for joining us at Midnight Grove for the Song of the Hidden Stream. Emry's story reminds us of the importance of giving back, cherishing what we have, and working together to restore what's broken. May his journey inspire your dreams tonight and leave you with a sense of calm and renewal. Sleep well, and we'll see you next time for another magical tale.